Okay, Chairman, we're live.
Thank you very much, Mark. Welcome to the virtual meeting of the Executive Scrutiny Committee at the London Borough of Hillingdon. This is a virtual meeting and is also being broadcast simultaneously on the Council YouTube channel, Hillingdon, London. The purpose of this committee is to scrutinise the decisions made by the Cabinet, who have just finished their virtual meeting tonight. My name is Councillor Henry Higgins, and I am the Chairman of this committee and holding this meeting tonight. Before we start, some important online housekeeping for everyone present. Please ensure that any mobile phones around you are on silence. Please keep your microphone muted when not speaking, and then unmuted to speak you. As a chairman, I will be calling on those who wish to speak during this meeting. Mark will be indicating. I'm on an iPad, so I can't see you all very well, but Mark will let me know who wishes to speak. In terms of technical meeting control, if any councillor leaves the virtual meeting partway through for a period of time, e.g. lost connection, I will continue the meeting unless we are not quorum of a minimum of 3 councillors. Can I please call an attendance roll call, please? Councillor Riley.
Present, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Wayne Bridges.
Good evening, Chairman. I'm present.
Thank you. Councillor Dennis.
Good evening, Chairman, and I am present.
Councillor Arnold.
Good evening, Chairman. I too am present.
Councillor Curling, the Labour lead.
Good evening, Chairman. I'm present.
Councillor Money.
Good evening, Chairman. I'm also present.
Councillor Prince.
Hello, present.
Thank you. And Mr. Tony Little, our Education Co-op member.
Good evening, Chairman. Present.
Thank you. And Mark from Democratic Services.
Present, Chairman.
Thank you very much. We'll go straight through the agenda. Any apologies for absence?
All members are present, Chairman.
Thank you. Any declarations of interest matters before us this meeting? No, I'll take that as no one has spoken up. Do we agree that we agreed the minutes of the last meeting? I'll take your silence as yes. Thank you. To confirm, there are 2 public reports that were considered by the Cabinet today and 3 reports in private. Obviously, the private ones we will be offline. We go straight to item 5, which is matters of clarification from the last meeting. At the last meeting, members sought clarification on a number of points in the report which were circulated prior to all those on the agenda. These were for noting, not comment, not for further clarification. Has anybody got any other comments on that, please? No?
I can't see any, Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Then we go straight on to item 6, consideration of the Cabinet decisions tonight, which I'm going to go through the committee through the report considering the Cabinet tonight. If there are any comments, clarifications needed, potential for call-in, the first 2 reports will be considered in public, the rest are in private. Agenda item 5, the Council budget for 2019 to 20 revenue and capital outturn. This report set out the outturn position for 2019-20. The Cabinet started was not material affected by COVID-19 pandemic. There were a number of financial decisions made, including all accepting varieties of grants. Any comments, please?
Councillor Curling and Councillor Little. Councillor Curling.
Councillor.
Thank you, Chairman. A couple of things, really. One for clarification, I suppose. On page 16, paragraph 35, it talks of housing services incurred significant legal costs defending challenges around the housing allocations policy. I think most members are aware of that, but just to clarify, have other policy areas been reviewed, particularly around those groups that were found to be discriminated against, to ensure that there is no further discrimination in any other council department.
Okay, Mark, what's a comment on that?
Just to clarify, Councillor, are you focusing on around the housing policies in particular, or just generally across the council?
Generally across the council, so that we don't find ourselves going through another legal challenge on another aspect of council policy around the same sort of issues.
I think that's absolutely right, Chairman. I think there was a report to Cabinet a few months ago setting out the council's approach to equality. So I can take that away with the Equalities Officer and bring back an update to the committee.
Okay, thank you.
That's brilliant. Thank you. And if I may, I think I've got one more on this,
Go ahead.
which is, I suppose, it's more of a comment or observation than a question, really, and that is on page, if I can find it, page 45 and 46. There seems to be an awful lot of borrowing and more borrowing. So I just thought that's something we should be aware of to keep an eye on.
Okay, noted.
Chairman, Mr. Little, next.
Mr. Little. Go ahead, Mr. Little.
Thank you. Thank you. Sorry, I had difficulty unmuting. A comment and two questions. The comment was to welcome the funding from the youth music grant, which is very welcome, an area that always needs extra. The second one is a question in relation to send transport, recommendation 2, where it talks about the council having to provide funds during this period when the children aren't going to school. Presumably from September, when the school's fully open, there is still going to be difficulty with social distancing with these children who are particularly vulnerable. Does the council have any special plans in providing send transport from the new school year? That's my first question. And the second one relates to paragraph 88 on page 28, where it talks about an overspend on the special education needs and disabilities part of the service, which relates to funding additional agency staff and relates it to the recruitment campaign. Is the extra spending because the recruitment campaign was not successful, or because it was successful and there needs to be some debt clearing before the new arrivals come in?
Hello, yes. Mark, do you want to take the first thing about the transport for me, please?
Yeah, Chairman, that was an emergency decision taken by the leader to essentially provide some continuity for service providers. So the council doesn't find itself in a negative position later on in September, as you say, when we need to provide that transport. That's one issue. As for any plans to transport in a safe and socially distant way, or whatever the government advice is at the time, that's something I'll have to get back to you on, Councillor, Mr. Little, and the committee.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that we won't know till nearer the time. We don't, as far as we don't know whether the kids are going back yet, or do we? So that will develop in time, and hopefully by our next meeting we might know more. On the second question, Mark.
Well, I think it's always good just to see which way round. So I can go back to the committee to see how the advertising campaign has benefited in terms of helping to reduce the number of agency staff and increase the number of permanent staff, and that's a continuing thing that the committee has looked at and discussed a while.
I would add to that is that we know that we've had some success and some not success. A lot of people wish to stay as agency staff, but obviously maybe we'll find out more if it was affected by the COVID and get back to the committee if committee is agreeable.
Chairman, Councillor Money would like to speak.
Councillor Money.
Thank you. I had a question on page 22, well, a couple of questions on page 22. This is around the housing needs performance data. I just want to know, with the self-contained accommodation and the households in B&B, are we falling foul of the 6-week bed and breakfast rule as per the Homelessness Order 2003? Or are we bouncing any families or people around different B&Bs to avoid this? And have we paid out any compensation of any sorts? And do we have any statistics with our neighbouring boroughs just to see how we compare? Thank you.
On the first issue, Mark, would you like to pick that up?
Well, Chairman, I think if the committee is agreeable, it's something I can go away and report back.
Yeah, I don't think that should be a problem. Anybody got a problem with that? I'll take your silence as a no.
Thank you for that. And if we can just include our neighbours that we normally include.
Yeah,
in the data.
Let's see if we can.
Noted.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else?
Councillor Prince would like to say something.
Prince.
Hiya. On page 43, where it's got youth provision, it has the revised budget of being 1,125,000, but the outturn was just 5. Do we know why that is? Can we find out why that is?
Just 1 second.
No problem. It's about 3/4 of the way down on page 43. Where it says youth provision.
Yeah.
It's Annex D programme of works, if that helps.
Oh,
Oh yeah, that's right. Okay, yeah.
sorry.
Fine. That's all right. Mark?
Well, Chairman, it's obviously a timing issue. You've got the outturn there. So it's something if the committee would like me to find out more about, I can go and do so. Timing in terms of the youth provision capital works. As you did hear from Councillor Bianco, there have been obviously changes and slippages generally in the capital programme due to the pandemic, where obviously we're not building things, whatever, and things have slipped a little bit, but yeah.
That's fine. I mean, would the committee, could the committee hold off on this one until we sort of get back to a sort of a more of a stable footing? Because obviously, it's not, the results are not going to be very good, obviously, because nothing's been produced. Is that the idea of your question, Councillor?
Well, alternatively, can we find out an estimated time frame in which it will resume?
Again, that's. I think. Can I hold this question till our next cabinet meeting in September? Is the committee agreed with that, so that we have a more of a clear indication of if we're moving forward in these projects?
Chairman, what you'll find, because this is the outturn report, you're looking back the last financial year, the reports in going forward now to cabinet. So the first will be in September, will be this year's budget. So you'll see an updated programme of works reflecting this year's spend. So it's up to the committee, that might be a better way to track spend that's taking place now.
Well, can I have to see the committee? Would anybody like to?
Councillor Curling and Councillor Curling.
Councillor Curling.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Could we just clarify that that is the case, that it's only 5,000 spent out of the 1.1 million because of COVID? Could we just clarify that was the reason?
No problem with that at all.
Noted.
Councillor Money.
Yeah, mine was a similar question actually. If we can clarify, but also this is the spendage for last year, so surely it was before the pandemic.
Yeah.
So really, we shouldn't have an issue of exploring why this spendage was done during that time frame, because it was all before lockdown, before March, before the pandemic. So I don't think us exploring the idea of exploring why this happened, yeah, and also this council, I think not last year but the year before last, did champion the idea of youth services and youth budgets and capital youth programs. So I think it will be interesting to look at.
Don't take this the wrong way. I think it's a very good question, and I have no problem with it. It's just I'm just trying to make sure that we actually have what we want rather than something that's slightly skewed. Mark, if you can find out if any of the other cabinet members and other members are happy with it, I'm quite happy for you to have a look into this if you've got time.
Absolutely, Chairman. Happy to look into that and report back.
Okay, thank you very much. Anybody else got anything?
I can't see anyone, Chairman. No, so I think that's that item done.
Okay. I'll be very surprised if anybody's got a question. The next one, item 6, quarterly planning obligation monitoring report. Oh, you have, Peter. Please, Councillor Mark Curling. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. It's, I suppose, not directly on this item, but it is related. Back last year, I think it was last June, actually, exactly a year ago, we did, the committee agreed to having a SIL report of a similar nature.
We did.
And I think it was reported that that would be an annual report. I think an annual report happened, but it wasn't particularly useful in that there's no ward breakdown. I can appreciate there may be difficulty with a ward breakdown of expenditure because with SIL it can be spent anywhere in the borough, whereas with Section 106 it has to be spent in the area of the development. Yeah, but it may help put a bit of context around the SIL report if the income could be broken down by ward, because I would have thought the income comes in by ward anyway because of the developments that are there. So so if we could ask for the SIL report to have the ward breakdown by income, if not expenditure, that would be really good.
Mark, could you have a look into that, because I think we did agree this. And let me know, please.
Absolutely, yeah. That is the plan. I think it's an annual report now to the relevant policy overview committee. It has to be reported, published a statement annually. But as Councillor Curling said, I think members at the POC requested next time it comes back that has much more detailed ward-based breakdown and the project. So that's the plan going forward. I think that's for the policy overview committees. I think there's also been some discussions about reporting that to the planning committees too.
Okay, lovely.
Yeah.
I hope that answers your question. Anybody else?
No, Chairman.
Okay, thank you. We'll go into part 2. Wait for Mark to notify us all that we're off air, please.
Thank you, councillors. If you could stand by.